Imagine this: a peaceful, gated community, quiet streets, neatly manicured lawns, everything you'd expect from a suburban paradise. But what if I told you that beneath this picture-perfect neighborhood, a power struggle was brewing? A story of power, abuse, and one man's fight for justice that will leave you speechless. Meet Marcus Blackwood, a federal judge who thought he'd found peace in Willowbrook Estates, a serene retreat far away from the chaos of his high-profile job. After years of dealing with dangerous criminals and serious threats, he just wanted to come home, tend to his garden, and enjoy some well-earned silence. But that silence didn't last long. What started as a simple HOA violation, an eggshell-colored window blind, quickly escalated into something far more sinister. Karen, the HOA president, a seemingly mild-mannered woman with a passion for community standards, would stop at nothing to enforce her version of perfection. From mailbox colors to flag sizes, nothing escaped her watchful eye. At first, Marcus ignored her petty demands, but over time, those requests turned into threats. And then, Karen did the unthinkable. She broke into Marcus's home. What happened next shook Willowbrook Estates to its core. Federal marshals arrived, arresting Karen in a scene so shocking it made headlines. But this wasn't just about one person breaking the rules. It was about the lengths people will go for power and control, and the price they're willing to pay when they're caught. In this story, you'll see how one man's fight for his privacy led to the unraveling of a woman's life built on lies and manipulation. How one breach of trust turned into a legal battle that changed everything for an entire community. Stick around, because this isn't just any neighborhood drama. This is a true story of justice, betrayal, and the fight for what's right. You won't believe how it all unfolds. After receiving the first notice about an HOA violation, Marcus thought it was just a minor incident. The HOA system in Willowbrook Estates was known for its strict rules, and Marcus didn't think much of it. After all, he just wanted peace and to avoid any drama. However, as the requests started coming in regularly, first about the window blinds, then the mailbox, and later the American flag, Marcus began to realize that something wasn't quite right. Karen, the HOA president, was the one behind these requests. She wasn't just controlling every small detail in the neighborhood, she was using her power to pressure residents. Each request became more intense and more demanding. From repainting mailboxes to adjusting the size of flags, nothing escaped her watchful eye. At first, Marcus ignored her petty demands, but over time, those requests turned into threats. And then Karen did the unthinkable. She broke into Marcus's home. This is when everything changed. Karen, using an old contractor access code, bypassed the security gate and entered Marcus's house while he was at court. She walked through his house, taking pictures of everything, from his bookshelf to his medicine cabinet, even snooping through his personal papers. At one point, she rearranged objects just to photograph them and document violations. What she didn't realize was that Marcus's house wasn't just protected by a regular alarm system. Due to past threats, he had a comprehensive security system installed, which included cameras in every room except the bathrooms. As Marcus crossed the threshold of his home, she triggered alerts that immediately alerted federal agents. Within minutes, federal marshals were on their way to his home, expecting to deal with a serious security threat. They watched in real time as Karen moved through the house, documenting every action. It didn't take long before Marcus got the urgent call from Marshal Davidson. His heart sank as he realized what was happening. Someone had violated his privacy and possibly compromised his safety. Marcus immediately excused himself from court, telling his clerk that there had been a security breach at his home. The 40-minute drive back home felt like hours. As he processed what was happening, he realized this wasn't just about a neighbor being difficult. This was a breach of trust and a serious violation of his personal space
and security. When Marcus finally arrived at his home, he was met with a scene he never expected. The quiet, peaceful neighborhood was filled with federal vehicles, and officers had already established a perimeter. Inside, crime scene technicians were busy documenting everything that Karen had touched, photographing surfaces, collecting fingerprints, and bagging the violation notice she had left behind as evidence. The tension grew as Marcus watched the security footage on a laptop in his driveway. Seeing Karen move through his home with such casual entitlement infuriated him in a way few things ever had. Her actions showed a complete disregard for the law, privacy, and basic human decency. She had used her position as HOA president to fulfill her own need for control and curiosity, without any thought to the consequences. After giving his statement, Marcus made a call to District Attorney Patricia Williams, a former colleague. Patricia listened intently to the details, her tone growing more serious as Marcus mentioned the security footage and the involvement of the federal marshals. She assured him that they would prosecute this case to the fullest extent of the law, not just because he was a judge, but because this kind of abuse of power could not be tolerated in any community. The arrest itself was almost anticlimactic. Karen emerged from her house wearing designer workout clothes, completely unprepared for what was about to unfold. Her initial annoyance quickly shifted to confusion and ultimately panic as Marshal Davidson read her rights. She kept insisting that she had the authority to inspect properties as HOA president and that there had been a misunderstanding. But when the marshals informed her she was being charged with breaking and entering, criminal trespass, and impersonating a federal officer, her protests reached a fever pitch. She demanded to call her husband, her lawyer, the mayor, anyone who might get her out of this situation. The officers remained calm, processing her arrest without any emotional reaction. Within hours, the local news had picked up the story. The footage of Karen rifling through Marcus's personal belongings and leaving behind the violation notice was broadcast across multiple stations. The headline read, "Federal Judge's Home Invaded by HOA President," and the public began to react. The next morning, Karen's preliminary hearing took place in federal court, ironically, in the very building where Marcus had typically presided over cases. Judge Thompson, known for his no-nonsense approach, set bail at $50,000 and issued a no-contact order prohibiting Karen from interacting with Marcus or any Willowbrook Estates residents while the case was pending. The HOA board held an emergency meeting that evening, and with Karen unable to attend, they voted to remove her from her position. Several board members expressed shock and apologized to Marcus for the harassment he had endured. They also voted to implement new policies that would require written consent from homeowners before any property inspections could take place, effectively nullifying all contractor access codes. As the criminal case against Karen moved forward, it became clear that the evidence against her was overwhelming. Faced with irrefutable video evidence and the testimony of federal marshals, her attorney advised her to take a plea deal. She pled guilty to criminal trespass and abuse of authority, receiving 2 years of probation, 300 hours of community service, and a $10,000 fine. The federal charges added another year of probation and an additional $15,000 in fines. But the criminal penalties were just the beginning. Marcus filed a civil lawsuit for invasion of privacy, intentional infliction of emotional distress, and violation of federal protection statutes. His attorney estimated that the damages could exceed $100,000, not including legal fees. Karen's homeowner's insurance refused to cover intentional criminal acts, leaving her personally liable for any judgment. As the legal process unfolded, the fallout from Karen's actions reverberated throughout Willowbrook Estates. The community that had once been under her tight control was now in turmoil, divided between those who had long feared her and those who had benefited from her unchecked power. What Karen had intended to use as a means of control had now become her downfall.
Residents of Willowbrook Estates began to speak out. Many shared their own experiences of Karen's overreach,
and the constant pressure they had felt to conform to her stringent rules. Some spoke of the constant surveillance of their homes, where Karen would leave notes on their doors for violations that seemed absurd, like a misplaced garden gnome or a patch of grass that had grown a little too tall. Others described the threatening messages she would leave, insinuating that if they didn't comply, their standing in the community would be jeopardized. These stories were not new to Marcus, but hearing them from his neighbors brought the full extent of Karen's manipulation into sharp focus. For the first time in years, the residents of Willowbrook Estates felt empowered. The board members who had once supported Karen now found themselves in a difficult position, trying to distance themselves from her. A special meeting was called to address the changes that needed to take place in order to restore trust within the community. With Karen out of the picture, many saw this as an opportunity to rewrite the rules, to establish a system that would protect residents' rights and ensure that something like this would never happen again. The HOA's newly elected members passed sweeping reforms. One of the most important changes was the creation of a community oversight committee, made up of volunteers from the neighborhood. This committee would have the authority to review any proposed inspections or violations, ensuring that they were fair and justified. Gone were the days of a single person making arbitrary decisions about what constituted a violation. This new committee would ensure transparency in all future matters and provide residents with a sense of security. But the effects of Karen's actions weren't confined to just Willowbrook Estates. The news of her arrest spread quickly, with local media outlets covering the story in detail. The scandal sparked a broader conversation about the power of HOA leaders and the need for accountability. Interviews with residents of Willowbrook were broadcast, where they shared their personal experiences and expressed how afraid they had been to speak out before. The public was shocked by how far Karen had gone to control her neighbors, and the story quickly went viral, with thousands of people expressing their outrage and support for the residents who had stood up against her. At the same time, Marcus's reputation as a judge remained intact, and he found himself receiving letters of support from both former colleagues and strangers who had been inspired by his stance. The entire experience had tested his patience and resilience, but it had also reminded him of the importance of standing up for what is right, even when faced with overwhelming odds. As the months passed, the effects of the trial were still being felt in the community. Willowbrook Estates, once a quiet and peaceful place, had transformed into a model for how communities could stand together against misuse of power. The changes in the HOA were a direct response to Karen's unethical actions, and the residents, now more united than ever, took pride in the reforms that had been put in place. For the first time, the community felt like it was truly in control of its future. Marcus, now able to return to his normal routine, found peace in knowing that justice had been served. He had fought for his privacy, and in doing so had inadvertently sparked a larger movement toward community accountability. Karen's fall of grace had been swift and unforgiving, but it had opened the eyes of everyone in Willowbrook Estates to the importance of protecting their rights and standing up to tyranny, no matter how small or large it might appear. The story between Marcus and Karen offers a powerful lesson about the strength of community, transparency, and justice. It shows that when power is abused, it can break the trust within a community, creating fear and injustice. However, when people stand up and speak out to protect their rights, real change can happen. We should never remain silent when witnessing injustice, whether it's in small or large matters. Transparency is the key to safeguarding rights and ensuring fairness for everyone. Those who abuse power cannot continue unchecked if the community decides to stand up against them. The most important message from this story is about unity and resilience. When the people of a community unite and refuse to be afraid, those who abuse power lose their hold. The story also reminds us that everyone has the right to protect their own rights, and when we stand up for what's right, we create real change. Don't let fear stop you from fighting for justice and truth. Take control of your own life and never let anyone manipulate power over you. Your community, just like Marcus's, can stand up and bring about positive change. Always believe in the power of transparency and protect your own rights. If you found this story inspiring and impactful, don't forget to like the video to show your support and let me know you want more stories about justice and the power of community. If you've ever witnessed the abuse of power or have similar experiences, please comment below and share your story. Don't hesitate to share this video with your friends and family so they can learn valuable life lessons too. Share this story because we need to build stronger communities and stand up for fairness. If you haven't subscribed yet, don't miss out on the next exciting videos. Hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss a story. Every like, comment, and share from you is a huge motivation for me to continue sharing powerful messages about empowerment, justice, and transparency. Thank you for being part of this journey, and I hope you will always stand up for the truth.